Hey, what's up, everyone? Just gonna do a quick recap of my day at the desk. It was a tough day for me. The PA was, it just wasn't. It wasn't agreeing with me. I was looking for the longs, and every time I saw an opportunity to get in, I was just getting burnt. So, I got chewed up pretty good today. But one thing I can say is I stuck to my rules. It's something I was talking about on Sunday with one of my coaches that I wanted to come into this week putting a little more size on. If the market conditions calm down, we don't have the volatility. I'd like to swing with a little more size just to get this funded account moved ahead a little quicker instead of just you know being more confident in my trades more or less and taking the setups that present. But today was one of those days where I felt like I was forcing the trades. They weren't A plus setups, and yeah, I just I bent my rules a tad bit. I'll get into that as we get into the trades, but at the end of the day, I'm down $500 on the day. I only took four trades, three losers, one winner. So let's just get into what I was seeing in the morning and go from there. So getting to the desk and looking at this 15-minute chart, it clearly looks bullish. We got this, gap up on Sunday in the overnight. Price just pushed higher. We had a little bit of a pullback yesterday, but not much at all. Price pushed back straight back up to high day. Into the overnight here was a little choppy. It gets sellers take control for a little bit. Buyers try and regain control in the London session. Sellers take control again, and then we get this push higher coming into pre-market. So overall, I'm looking long. We're above the point of control. We're above the value area high. All the levels, the key levels I'm looking at first thing in the morning. So as long as we stay above the point of control, I'll be looking long. But let's see what happens. I'm anticipating somewhat of a pullback, hopefully a pullback here to the start of day, even the value area high. If we can get a pullback here and some nice support, we could see some nice longs off of there. Something like, just come up like that, down, boom, like that. Even if you think about it, worst case, we come back down a point of control and we push off of there. NQ looks a lot more bullish. We'll get into it as we get into the trades. So this was my first trade. And basically, it was two tries at the exact same thesis. The first one, we get this pullback into market open. We set the opening range low. And now I'm looking for it to bounce off this opening range low. And see, it's the point of control, like right there's the point of control. And we have a nice hold of it. The mistake I made on this trade is, you could have said I got in early. But the actual mistake I made on the trade was I had my stop too tight. If this was the point of control, I should have been down here below the previous day's New York VWAP, just giving it some room to breathe. And as you could see, I get stopped out on the 10 a.m. news. It comes in, we get a little push down again. But again, we hold this point of control, but I get stopped out to the wick. So just goes to show, on some days, especially when you're trading into news or your key level is so close to your stop, I would just move it down some more. Would have saved me $105. But, I was convicted in the thesis, so I got stopped out. We come back in. We take the New York VWAP. I get long here. We push higher. And there's actually some people that I was trading with that actually got worried on this candle here and were debating if this was going to be basically, attempt at taking the opening range high, rejecting off it, and coming down. I stayed convicted in the idea. I got the New York VWAP below me. Buyers are clearly in control here. So this is basically the close of the 15-minute candle. The initial balance is setting in. I took profits there. Basically made this trade a wash. So one loss, one win. I'm basically break even on the day. I should have took a break then, but I was clearly looking to catch some more of this long, what I thought was long momentum, this bullish momentum that we were getting the last 2 days. So coming into the next trade, this has been a real problem area for me, is taking these trades. And that is taking these, setting a high day and taking the first high day, not even a break. I got a little excited here on this pin on the IB high, and we get this push off it. And I'm assuming, again, assuming is such a silly word, assuming that we're going to take the high day VWAP. And I enter here just to get a better price. What happens? Nothing, right? They can't even get above it. Price pulls down. Okay, cool. We found some support here. We're going to get a push off of here. Price pulls down. This was kind of, an area of interest. If we came back into the opening range high, I was thinking that we were going to come back down to the initial balance low, which is this red line down here. So what I decided to do was I came in 5 micros. I had quite a big stop. I decided to take 2 off here, just mitigate some of the losses. We got to move down. This slices the opening range high. We play around the New York VWAP for a bit. We slice through that. Boom, I get stopped out. $320. So a bigger loss than I wanted to. I probably should have closed the trade here or here, but NQ was looking so much more bullish, and NQ had some room to go to its New York VWAP. So that's the reason I made this stop so big. ES was lagging behind NQ, so if NQ was able to come back down to its New York VWAP and find some support and bounce up, I was, my thesis was ES would lag and follow right behind. So that didn't happen. NQ had some more move to still come down, and it took its New York VWAP. So I got out of this trade, and yeah, I'm down 320 on that trade. And then coming into the last trade of the day is a pure FOMO trade. I just want it to be right. I wanted to end the day being right. I was telling myself the longs are still in play. NQ still looking bullish. NQ has some way to go down to its previous day's New York VWAP. I got the point of control here below me. And I said, you know what, I'm getting into this trade. I originally get in 2 micros just to mitigate the loss. I got a 8-point stop, so it's not going to put me. It's going to put me under $100 of loss, and I was okay with that. The problem that persisted was as price pushed higher, and we took the high day VWAP break on this. On this, you could call it a bounce off the opening range high, and this push up. I added in 2 more contracts. For me, this was thinking about getting that $320 loss back sooner. So instead of having to take the trade up to here, I could take it up to here and get the loss back. And this was a bad mistake on my part. This was, I should have just stuck with my 2 micros, let this play out, see if we can find some room, not even add in, just see what I can get back on the loss. And instead what happens, people get sucked in here. I bet you everybody and their dog got long on this break of the high day VWAP. Price and look at that. Nothing but red all the way down. And like I said, I thought these initial balance low was going to get taken. And clearly that this little pre-bounce or whatever you want to call it just FOMO'd me into this trade where I didn't even, going back to originally what I was thinking is that these lows will come back down here somewhere, and I totally put that out of my head. Clearly what happens, we come back down. This time I'm like, I'm not going to keep moving my stop. I'm sticking to it. This is the trade I took. I got to stay convicted in it. And you know what? I got to take the loss and be a man. I took the loss. Down $204. So down $550 on the day. Looking at the calendar, yesterday was a small green, and today I'm going to call this a big red. But for me, I had some rules coming into this week. I was going to trade a maximum loss of $500, and usually I trade a maximum of 3 to 4 trades. One of the other rules that I do use is that if I lose 2 trades in a row, I'll stop trading. And what happened to me today is by having a loss and a win and then 2 losses, that 4th trade in my mind, if I had rules and just saying when I take 2 losses on the day, I'm done. Instead, I convinced myself because I had the 1 win and the 2 losses weren't back to back that I could take another trade, and I FOMO'd that trade and it cost me another $200. So I could have mitigated this quite a bit more, almost half. Right? This could have been, minus 320 on the day, but it is what it is. This is why we're doing this. This is why I'm learning to do this, and this is why I make these videos and document this stuff. So it's, I can go back and reflect on the trades I made and why I took them and what I'm doing. So it is what it is. Just going to move on. Tomorrow's a new day. I still got about $2,600 of drawdown in this funded account, so I'm not one bit upset. I got, as long as I stick to my rules and keep my losses under that $500, I have plenty of time to turn this around. So nothing to be worried about. A tough day all in all, and